after our series of letters, we've had a series of seals being opened, we've had a series of trumpets being blasted, and we're anticipating a series of bowls being poured out. And in between that, we have this series of visions. That might just be a clue that we're back around again another time. We're looking at this same period of history as the seals, the trumpets, the bowls. We're looking at this time period that we're living in now and have been for 2,000 years or so, the time between the ascension of Jesus and his eventual return at some point in the future. We begin with this woman who is clothed with the sun and the moon and has 12 stars around her head. And this traces back to Israel's history with the dream of Joseph, where he dreams of himself and his brothers as the 12 stars with the sun and the moon as his mum and his dad. So this is God's people. But this woman is pregnant. She's about to give birth, and she gives birth to a son. This son is a special king, one who will rule the nations, as it refers there to Psalm 2, which is obviously a reference to Jesus, the one who would be born in fulfillment of Psalm 2. So this is God's people giving birth to Jesus, the one who was born from the people of God as a Jew. But then we have this dragon, this snake, that in verse 9 we're told is the devil or Satan. And he's crouching there waiting for the baby to be born so that he can devour him. In this we see the enmity of the devil with Jesus, how he wants to stop the mission as soon as it begins. You can relate that story to Herod and how he tried to have Jesus killed soon after his birth. You can relate it to Judas and how he was used by the devil to have Jesus arrested and killed. But Jesus was not defeated. He rose again and he ascended into heaven. It says here that he was snatched up to heaven, where he now is. There's then this war that breaks out in heaven as the angels defeat the devil and all of his angels, and he is thrown down from heaven. Now I take this as the heavenly reality going on while the earthly reality is Jesus' life, death, resurrection and ascension. And so the devil is thrown out of heaven. He is thrown out from being the accuser of God's people. Now that might sound a little bit weird, but when you compare it to the beginning of the book of Job, well, that's exactly what we see. The devil is in heaven accusing God's people. And what that now means is that since Jesus' death and resurrection, the devil is no longer able to accuse us, God's people. He cannot do that any longer. Heaven rightly rejoices at the defeat of the most evil figure in the universe by Jesus. And it's a victory that we share in. We share in by the blood of Jesus, that he shed his blood on our behalf. We share in it by living faithfully and by loving Jesus more than we even love our lives. And so heaven can rightly celebrate this victory. It's a woe, though, to the earth, because as the devil sees that he has been defeated and thrown down from heaven, so he pursues the woman. He goes after God's people, the church. He persecutes them and spends all of his energies on doing so. Even though God's people, the church, are persecuted by the devil at times, yet we have God's help. We are given figuratively the wings of an eagle to fly into the desert, and there God takes care of his people as he has done so often in the past. And this is for a limited time. It's for 1260 days, or a time, times, and half a time, which is 3.5 years. This is a time that has come up before in Revelation, and it's the time period in which we are now living. It's the time period between the ascension of Jesus and his eventual return. So God will take care of his people. Even though the devil rages, well, he's lost his place in heaven as the accuser of us, God's people, and we are taken care of by God for this short period of time under which we will experience persecution from time to time. Well, make sure you join us next time for our next instalment of Revelation.